Functional testing typically involves 5 steps. The excuse me. The identification of functions that the software is expected to perform. Identifying what is going to happen. What needs to happen, right? So what are we going to do here? Now let's go back to our example of the mail, right? We are going to be able to send mail with this application and be able to receive mail, and we're going to, be able to sort our mail and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the identification in this would be, okay, what will it exactly do? Let's identify what's going to do. Oh, okay. The identification then will be mails get received, mails get sent, mails get created, mails get archived, and so on and so on. So that's the identification. So the creation is the input data based on the functional specifications. So you will always have a functional spec, right, which you will get from the design team and the code team. So the functional specification would always say, okay, this program needs to do this, this, and that. And then the functional testing guys would go, okay, let's identify those things that it needs to do. Okay, we have identified it, right? Now we need to go and create the input. Okay, do you see where the creation comes from? The creation is to create the input for the testing. Are you with me? So the input or the creation of the input would be me as the tester going and creating an email and see if it actually works. That's the input, right? So the next one is determination. Determination of output based on the function specification. So once you've got you've created your input, with determination, you're kind of waiting for the output. What will happen in the third step? We will wait for the output of our whole functional testing. Are you with me here? Do you see how important the identification steps are? The creation of the input, the determination of the output. Do you see how it all links together to actually get the functional testing going? So with the determination, we are getting our output based on the functional specification. The functional specification gets determined in the identification, which is step number 1. Okay. Next up, the next one is execution. Now, the execution of the test case. The reason why we refer to it as the execution, because it's the actual execution. Oh, let me undo that and try and do it better. See if I can undo that. Let's just go and... oh, I've got an eraser here. Let's just go and delete that. So, the execution, now I'm going back, the execution section is you actually going and creating that email, going and looking at the results. So it's executing the actual testing phase, right? Execution. The last one is comparison. The comparison of the actual expected output. The comparison is kind of basically a reviewing stage where you would go, okay, this is the results of the testing. Now, let's go back a bit and just understand this whole 5 steps, that we make sure that everyone is understanding this. Identification, number 1. That is where we go and we identify the actual functional specific or the function specification. We go and identify, okay, in our case, we've got a mailing system. So identification number 1 is mails need to be sent. Number 2 is mails need to be received. Number 3, mails needs to be saved. Mails needs to be archived. Mails needs to be moved from inbox to outbox or send items once it's been sent. That's the identification stage. The creation stage is okay, the creation of it will actually be going and creating an email, going and sending that email, going and taking one email from the inbox to the archive folder. The determination would be to expect an output of those inputs. Okay? The execution would be to actually go take the creation document, the creation specification, and implementing it into the actual. That's where the actual testing is taking place. And then last but not least, the comparison. Comparison is going and reviewing the results that has been given by the tests. So in essence, that is functional testing. So functional would be to look at the actual work of it. Performance would be to look at the actual back end of it. Do you see how everything gets connotated together? Making sure that in functional testing, you've got quality assurance when you're doing the testing. In black box testing, you've got the actual testing of how does it work, and the 5 steps that you do to actually get that black box testing going. So one thing that I would recommend you to also have a look at is the following. Non-functional testing, which we've already covered in the performance testing, acceptance testing, regression testing, system testing, software testing, integration testing, unit testing, and database testing. Now, these guys that I've mentioned to you, if you have time, go just read through it, understand what it is, because this will help you in working with LoadRunner. So with all this I've mentioned, these are other related testing methodologies that also gets used other than function and performance testing. Okay, so in essence, this was functional testing, video 5.